Welcome, this is a new TV series called Racing Dirt to Road. In this series we're going to talk about a lot of exciting races all out of New Zealand, racing all over the world from motocross to enduro, off-road, extreme enduro, road racing. We're going to talk about their highs and lows, the exciting times and of course the down times. My name's Josh Coppins. I've got a rich history in racing, started riding motorcycles when I was 4 years old. Love the sport, been involved right since day one, and been a factory rider in Europe for 15 years, now based back in New Zealand as team manager for Altherm JCR Yamaha. In this episode of Dirt to Road, I'm going to introduce you to Chris Birch. Chris is an extreme enduro rider living in Thames, New Zealand. He travels the world living the dream, defying odds, doing extreme enduro events. In 2010, Chris burst onto the scene by winning the Roof of Africa and also the Romaniacs, which is a gnarly event. And the team's going to show you all about it, talk to him, and we're going to learn a whole lot more about this guy who takes extreme to a whole nother level.
Thanks for having me. I was really lucky that I was kind of basically born into a motorcycle family. So both my mum and my dad ride motorbikes and still do now. My mum rode a trials bike to all her antenatal classes and that sort of thing. So yeah, I can never really remember a time without motorbikes. So people often ask, when did you get into motorbiking? I don't honestly know. Just it was always around bikes the whole time and just grew up with it. Started off riding trials, so the technical feed-up trials, and just did that with my dad, just playing around until I was about sort of 16, and then started to get into enduros in Auckland with the Waitemata Motorcycle Club from there. Raced enduros in New Zealand up until 2004, something like that, and yeah, just doing national stuff, a few trips to Australia for the Aussie 4-day when we used to have teams regularly going to that, and just doing the normal enduro stuff and really enjoying that. Raced the ISDE in Taupo in New Zealand, which is a big international 6-day enduro, and did okay at that, but was kind of starting to get a bit over it, but disappointed with the sport, and the way the sport of enduros was going, it didn't really reflect what I wanted to do on the motorbike. It didn't have the sort of the adventure aspect to it that really gets me excited. And I was going to basically have my bike for sale, and I was going to go and start racing mountain bikes. And then a friend of mine sent me a YouTube clip of Red Bull Romaniacs, and yeah, I saw that, and it was basically like the perfect event had been designed for me in Romania. So I saved up all my money and went and did that race for the first time. Ended up coming on the podium in 3rd place, and that my first extreme enduro.
Catch the guys as early as I can and then just tuck in behind and behave myself. Get me in the bike to the finish and not do anything stupid.
Red Bull Romaniacs was like a real sort of catalyst for change in my life. Up until then I was working full time and not really quite sure what I was going to do with, still loving riding motorbikes, but couldn't really find a particular type of riding or racing that really got me excited. And then went to the race the first time in 2007 with a friend of mine, and just loved it from the start. It's so extreme and such a huge adventure. You're sitting on the start line, it's a 5-day race. You're sitting on the start line with absolutely no idea where you're going, no idea how long you're going to be on the bike for, and it's just all huge adventure. So I remember the first year I did it, I came last on the first day in pro class. No idea what I was doing, just had my mind blown for what I could do on a bike. I ended up riding up stuff and riding down stuff that I didn't even think was possible. The second day, just high on life, and actually I won the second day. So I came from last to first, and then ended up finishing on the podium 3rd overall for the event, in an event that a lot of people told me I wasn't going to finish.
bike ran absolutely perfectly today. The KTM was absolutely 100% perfect. All the little problems we had were solved, fixed it, and just full noise all day. The first person I call will be my wife Monica, because she'll be wide awake, sitting on the bed at home at 2 o'clock in the morning, waiting for me to call.
From there, just kind of things all went a bit crazy. Started doing more and more extreme enduros all around the world. Went and lived in South Africa for a couple of years and raced the South African Enduro Championship. That went really well. I ended up winning the South African Enduro Championship. From there, got to do the Roof of Africa and also the Dakar Rally. So the big 2-week rally that it started in Argentina and finished in Peru. And yeah, from just kind of been traveling around the world doing basically whatever interesting, exciting, weird events I can find with the support, with the partnership of KTM and with Red Bull. So the Roof of Africa it's a famous, really famous event in South Africa. It originally started, I think, in the 70s, more as a car event. So it was basically a race across the country of Lesotho, and it was kind of billed as like the car race across the worst roads in the world. So Lesotho is quite a poor country, but it's very mountainous, very beautiful country, and there's this crazy, well, we call them tracks, but they call them roads all up through the mountains. So it started off as a 2-day race, and the guys were doing about 500 kilometers a day through these mainly roads. As the event progressed, they started putting in more and more off-road sections. So famous off-road sections would be like Baboons Pass, which we still go up now. So more mountain passes, getting further out into the back blocks of Lesotho. In about, I think the late 90s, it ended up splitting away from the cars and became purely a motorbike race. And then kind of around 2000, they started shortening the distance, but really increasing the difficulty of the trail. So previously, where the guys were taking like 10 hours to do 500 Ks, now they're taking 10 hours to do 200 Ks. And it's all single track, really difficult stuff up through the mountains. Well, we get up to over 3,000 meters elevation, really remote, like not another human for miles and miles and miles, and it's a real adventure. So I've done that race, I think 6 times now, and I've won it 3 times in a row, so that was pretty cool. That was a big part of my success in racing. The extreme enduros, like, they are real extreme in tests of endurance. Like, I remember one year in the Roof of Africa, there was this big mountain climb right at the end of the last day. We climbed about 1,500 meters in one go, and my way of getting up there was I'd push and push and push until the point where I felt like I was going to pass out. And I'd stop, take my helmet off, count to 20, put my helmet back on again, keep going until I felt like I was going to pass out. Right, helmet off, count to 20, helmet back on again, and just made my way step by step up the hill. I remember getting to the top, taking my helmet off, having a spew, and looking back, and I couldn't see another motorbike. I'm like, yep, cool, I out-suffered those guys. Let's go. It is pretty extreme. I originally started doing the riding schools as a way to raise funds to go and do Red Bull Romaniacs in 2007. So any racer in New Zealand will tell you it's really difficult to get support and to get especially financial support in New Zealand. So I had to come up with a plan B to try and raise the funds to go and do this race. And I'm quite lucky in that my background's a mechanical engineer, so I really like the physics and the mechanical understanding of why this technique works, why that doesn't work, and like the actual sort of almost maths and physics behind riding the bike. So with that sort of a I guess, skill set, it was easier for me to kind of break down the techniques and explain them to people. So rather than like, this is how I do it, you just do it like this, I can sort of try and explain it a bit more scientifically to the guys. Obviously, I've got a pretty wide background to my riding, so trials, enduros, a little bit of motocross, but I suck at it, rallies, adventure riding, all that sort of stuff. So it's all trying to draw on all that different experience from around the world and different races, and yeah, try and give the guys as much of that as I can. And it started off slowly and it building up, and at the moment it's going really good. So we're flying all around the world doing these schools. So just come back from Canada. We taught nearly 500 people in Canada over 4 months. Went to Hong Kong on the way home and did 3 days of riding schools in Hong Kong. Who even knew you could ride motorbikes in Hong Kong? But that was really cool. And yeah, getting sort of requests from all over the world to do these schools now. So, which is great for me because it still keeps the adventure side of things going. Like it's really exciting going to ride bikes in these new interesting countries and riding the new terrain, meeting new people, and I really enjoy it. So the whole thing of adventure bikes, it's a relatively new part of motorcycling, and it's kind of like started off as more like adventure travel. So guys riding these bikes around the world, and big panniers on the back, and it's kind of coming more to actually using these big bikes as dirt bikes. So I've always really enjoyed the adventure riding, using my dirt bike skills to access areas that I wouldn't normally be able to get to, and used to do a lot of that with Monica. And before my daughter came along, just put Monica on the back and go and head up into the hills and see what we can find, riding around the South Island, all that sort of thing. When the KTM 1190 Adventure came out, so the big 1200, KTM New Zealand very kindly gave me one of those to play around on, and we started just making some videos and just for a laugh. And the first one went crazy. That had nearly 600,000 views, and so we did another one, and that went even better. And all of a sudden, I'm kind of the international adventure bike guy for KTM. So part of that was flying to Germany a couple of weeks ago to be on stage next to the director of the company to introduce the new adventure bike range, which is really exciting. And part of that now we're organising the first KTM Adventure Bike rally in New Zealand. So it's a 5-day non-competitive rally, and we're starting from Papamoa, going all across the North Island and as much off-road and backcountry roads as we can find, and finishing in New Plymouth 5 days later. So should be really exciting. It's a KTM only event, so we've got 80 guys on big V-twin KTM adventure bikes, so it should be really cool. Coming up, I've got a really cool race this weekend. So we've got our first kind of Red Bull Romaniac style adventure race in New Zealand this weekend. That's going to be in Tokoroa. So Sean Clark's organising this 3 days of GPS navigation racing in Tokoroa, so that's going to be really exciting. I've got a trip to Vietnam, so we're doing a 5-day ride across Vietnam on the Enduro bikes. Just backpacks on and head into the jungle. So that should be a good adventure. And then of course the KTM Adventure Rally. So that's going to be, it's my job to organise where we're going. So the next month or so I've got to be out on my adventure bike, finding these roads, finding these trails and exploring the North Island. So lots of fun.